McDowell County Board of Commissioners meeting. At this time, we will call the meeting to order. We always begin our meeting with a prayer and pledge, so we would ask everyone to please stand at this time. And Commissioner Lynn Green will lead us in the prayer tonight, and Commissioner Peters in the pledge.
Father, we come to you tonight thanking you for your blessings you've bestowed upon us. Father, we ask for your guidance this evening as we try to carry on the county's business. Help us that we make the right decisions for everybody in the county. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Let's pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks so much. You may be seated. At this time, we have on our agenda, Commissioners, the approval of the minutes, and we do have the August 12th, August 19th, and the DSS regular session, August 19th. What's the pleasure of the board concerning approval of the minutes?
Motion approved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Thank you. At this time, we have our agenda before us tonight for the meeting. And are there any additions or deletions to tonight's agenda by any commissioner or by staff?
Move we approve.
Okay. All right. Motion approved. Do you have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
Are we going to add something there, or did you decide?
That will be after citizen comments.
We got to add it right now.
Okay.
Though. Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'd like to add one item to that pertaining to the In God We Trust on the county vehicles.
Okay.
Second.
Yeah. You moved it. Okay. All right. And you mean your motion to, that's a new motion. Okay. So you got the second on it. Further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay. Thank you. At this time, let's move to our first item on our appointment schedule. We have a great group of people with us tonight. We have been hearing a lot of very, very positive things about our new staff at our Animal Services unit. I don't know exactly how you want to be termed, but one thing I'll say too to our staff members present that will be introduced by Terry, commissioners have already commented on, they said, I wonder if they wear that to work every day. And if y'all do, that looks great because you're being professional in your appearance, and so already from the board, hats off on how you look and how you dress during the day. So Terry, without further ado, why don't you come up, sir, and introduce our new county employees and tell a little bit about them, and the floor is yours, sir.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity again to bring you an update on the public services side. Not too long ago, back in July, we saw a press release that came out, and it said, Burke County has hired all staff from McDowell County Animal Shelter. And so that happened, and you know, Mark Twain made this statement one time. He said, the secret of getting ahead is to get started. So that's what we've done at the animal shelter. We've got started again. We're excited. Again, there's a lot of people that helped us make it through a very challenging time. In August 1st, we secured 3 new staff members to come to work for McDowell County. Their first full-time date was August 16th. So from August 1st to the 15th was certainly a challenging time for us. It was a new venture for me. It was a challenging time for the shelter, but again, I had made the statement very strongly that we would see no disruption in services, and that's what's happened, is we saw no disruption during that time. But there's a lot of thanks and a lot of people that made that happen, and I'd like to make you aware of that. Sheriff Ricky Buchanan allowed Animal Control Officer and Deputy Frank Holden come down and help us every day, and he was there faithfully every day. He helped on the administrative side. He handled the animal calls. We processed that, and he was a big help. We had many of the rescue organizations in the county that reached out. They sent volunteers. They came and helped themselves, and they were there every day. And I'm not talking about 1 or 2 people. I'm talking about half a dozen people every day to help manage the animals, to exercise, to walk, to train, to clean. And I tell you, we couldn't have made it without those organizations stepping in to help. So we're mighty thankful. We also had county staff that come down and helped. They helped foster animals. They helped walk animals. They also helped. So again, many organizations. But there's one I want to really shout out to very loud and clear. Natasha Cush is a young lady that lives in Buncombe County that is active every day with Asheville Humane Society. And she has faithfully came down since August 1st, 7 days a week from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. And she's still with us. That's a faithful individual to sacrifice her time for the animal welfare in McDowell County. And I tell you, we appreciate her greatly. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to recognize that name, and I hope you get to meet her one day. So, with that being said, we have 3 new people we'd like to introduce you to tonight that started. And honestly, the first day the ladies wore the uniforms, so they look very professional because we did that and they just got in. So that is their general appearance, and they will be representing McDowell County and greeting the public every day. So all of these 3 ladies come to us with years of service in the veterinary hospital experience, and we're very proud to have them. Ashley Beenge, our shelter attendant, Taylor Suttlemeyer, our registered vet technician, and Brittany Wright, our shelter manager. And I'll turn it over to her for a minute and let her update you on some of our activities.
I've got a question too.
Yes, sir.
Before you turn them loose. We had, it's been a little over a year ago, I had made a motion in here to allow the youth come in and help out on this. And then we were going to revisit that in a year's time, and I don't think we ever did. But I'd like to hear, see where we're at on that.
I can tell you already, we're working on that program and making training opportunities for them in the proper forms and applications. So when they come in, we're making sure that legitimate people are coming in to do legitimate service, even for the volunteers as well as youth and community service, because we want to make sure that nobody just off the street with any kind of history or any kind of concerns would be coming into our facilities.
But you are following
Yes, sir, we sure are.
Okay.
And that's already happening.
Okay, good.
Okay?
We talked about lowering that age too.
Well, that was the motion that I made, that we lowered the age. I think at that time, the majority of the board were fixed on 18 years old. But you are going
We're
down.
trying for 16.
Okay, that's what I wanted.
16 would allow the early college students that are required to have volunteer hours for school to come in. Right now, it's that without a chaperone, that's not in place. So, again, I'm Brittany Wright. I've been in the veterinary field for 14 years. I am a registered RVT. And I'm happy to be at the shelter. It is certainly a different experience than working in a veterinary hospital, but I'm happy to continue to work with animals, dogs and cats especially. Some of the things that we are currently working towards are having electronic records for the shelter with Shelter Manager. I think that will help with efficiency, and whenever we have to go back and look at paperwork, we don't have to dig so much. We'll be able to search for it in the computer system rather than look through files and paperwork. Another thing that we would like to consider at the shelter is changed operating hours, possibly different hours for drop-offs and intake than adoption hours. So that's something that we would like to talk about in the future. Do y'all have any questions for me?
One thing, I know the shelter had gotten almost to no kill because of the excellent cooperation with the rescue groups coming in. Unless an animal was just sick to the point it couldn't be adopted out. And I hear y'all are doing the same thing.
Yes.
It's still moving right along, and most animals are being adopted out, is that correct?
Adoptable animals, yes.
Adopted animals.
Sickness, we have been fortunate enough not to have seen a lot of sick animals in our time at the shelter currently. Aggression is another concern, so adoptability, we have to evaluate for adoptability. But we are continuing that, we will continue that.
Open house.
Oh, yes, the open house. So we're going to have an open house on September 26th from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And that'll give the chance for the community to come meet us and come see, what's happening at the shelter. And right now we are having an adoption event for cats until the 21st. Reduced adoption fees for cats. try to get some of the cats home. It's nice to meet y'all.
Well, we appreciate what you guys are doing. You certainly are a charming crowd, and we think you'll do a great job for us.
Appreciate your continued support. Couldn't do it without you.
Yeah, and the two items you noted, the electronic records moving forward, will be greatly attuned to how that progresses, because you are right, that saves time, and that's wonderful. And so, appreciate it, Terry. You got a great group, it looks like, and we're excited about the future of the animal shelter now. Very capable hands.
That's right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, any other commissioners want to say anything, add anything to that?
I'm good.
Okay. All right, ladies, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Y'all have a good night.
You too. Okay, this time let's move to, we got a 5:15 appointment. Let's see if we can put anything in. Administrative items. Go to item C, administrative items. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir. That will be under new business.
Yes, sir. Get through these fairly quickly. You have several, and again, for the folks watching in the room, administrative items is our housekeeping type things. The first item, you have a building reuse project budget ordinance. This is the project we're working with a local company on the building renovation with some state funds. So you've got that project budget ordinance on page 34. Approve that, please.
Okay, comments, questions?
Move approve.
Motion, second, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you. The next item, it's actually a closeout of a project ordinance fund for the Ethan Allen project. We did complete the building reuse on that project before they fortunately shut down, and so we need that resolution approved on page 35.
Motion to approve the project closeout resolution with Ethan Allen.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
Thank you. Last month, we brought a request from a property owner that has a residence in the county. They live out of county. They had entrusted the property management of their home to a third party. The third party did not make sure the short-term rental tax, the occupancy tax was collected, and somehow they were made aware. And so the property owner has caught up on the payments for, essentially the principal payments of $1,300. There are late fees of over $13,000 for about a year's worth that they're asking for a waiver on. So there is a letter with a little more explanation. The gist of it, it sounds like the property manager did not help out the property owner the proper oversight, and they are asking essentially forgiveness on that. The property owner is. I think they have a new property manager.
You know, I think the old property manager ought to pay a little money here. That's what I think. But anyway.
Yeah.
The only thing that they're requesting is the late fee.
Yes, sir. They have paid the tax that was owed.
This never happened before with them.
Not with this. No.
With this particular?
Not with this property owner. No.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve the waiver of the late fees.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
We have done this quite a few times in the past, given waivers to people like that. Not hardly this magnitude, I don't recall, since I've been on the board, this magnitude. But based on the fact that, we've previously done it, I think we need to go ahead with it. So,
I don't know if we've seen anything of this magnitude on late fees. I know there's some responsibility falls back on the owner, but to do the due diligence.
Okay. Other comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Aye. Okay, let's move to the next item.
Yes, sir, last month, you approved a similar resolution for reimbursement on vehicle purchase. Last month, it was public services. This month, this is building inspections. Probably next month, we will have the financing for these vehicles, but the need was there for the vehicles, so we can do this and reimburse ourselves when we get the financing.
Move that we approve. Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
You have more write-offs on page 32. This is for EMS accounts. Most of these are uncollectible for various reasons. No estate usually is the main reason.
Okay.
We approve as presented. Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
You have a couple of amendments will be done. You have GF3 is appropriating reserve funds and clerk of court. GF4 appropriates of reserve funds and emergency services. GF5 transfers between line items and public services. GF6 allocates inmate housing revenue for the sheriff's office. GF7 allocates reserve funds and social services. And that's all we have for admin items.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the board?
Motion to approve GF3 through GF7 as presented. Second.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign.
That's all we have.
All right, now let's go to our appointment schedule. We have a 5:15 appointment. This is the Veterans Program Overview, and we have Tonya Hampton with us today. And Tonya, come on up to the podium, ma'am, and you bring anybody, you brought somebody with you, so glad to have you here tonight also, and we'll hear you gladly.
Well, it's good to be here, to see everybody all smiling and happy and healthy. We have something going on at the Register of Deeds that is super exciting. We've been working on this project, actually been thinking about it for a couple of years, but it's taken a little bit of time to implement and to get it together. This is Holly Davis. Holly is our newest member of the Register of Deeds office, and she started February 22nd. She, I don't want to say replaced because there's no replacement for Brenda Grant, but Brenda's not well and unable to be in the Deeds office. So Holly has stepped up and become our part-time position, and we love her and look forward one day to maybe keeping her full-time. But since 2/22, she has worked diligently on this program, and she has contacted 310 businesses in our county, our small businesses. And what we are doing is we're incorporating we're making a veterans card. We'll have a kickoff on November the 11th. We're actually going to work that day. No money for the county. We just want to do it and volunteer our time. We're actually going to have a free shred event that I've paid for out of my pocket by myself. Nobody else has. And with that shred event, we're going to ask the veterans to come, and if they file their DD-214, their military discharge, or have in the past, and we have record of it, we are going to provide them with a veterans card. And these are a couple of ideas we've come up with. So they're not finalized, but they're like a credit card. They have the veteran's name, McDowell County, and it'll have our county seal on it, and their picture will be there, and it'll have their branch of service. On the back, it gives a website. It's McDougaldDeeds.com, where they can reach out, and they have a list it will also provide to them. So far, we have 32 vendors. I think in your packet, I provided you with the current vendors that have responded back to us. But so far, we have 32 vendors in the county and businesses that have offered discounts. Now, we didn't do large chains like Lowe's and Fats and things like that, because they have their own kind of corporate deals that they do for veterans. These are hometown businesses that we have here in the county that are actually like Bob's Donuts and just small franchises and businesses of individuals. We've had a great response. I'm hoping that we have a huge day that day of veterans come, and we're going to have some of the businesses have offered to be there and participate in our program to maybe tell the veterans what they're offering them, and they're going to have just demonstration of what they are what they have, like if it's a honey or if it's something, their soaps or whatever they sell, their products are going to be there. So we're really, really excited about that. That'll be from 10 to 1. I'd love to see you guys come. It's going to be great fun. And what would you like to say about the program, Holly? Anything in particular?
Well, when I looked at the businesses, I went online, and from living here all my life, I tried to get addresses and phone numbers for everybody, and I called them first, because some people they're not going to respond to anything. So, I mean, I looked at it every which way I could. I looked at the Chamber of Commerce and the businesses that they have, and so I've contacted as many as I can. But I think, I'd love to have more ideas of more ways to get more of the businesses in touch with them. But it's almost impossible unless I take a car and ride every road in the county.
And she has gone to several places, and she's done a great job with that.
I have, and I'm trying to engage people because I think it'll be good for McDowell to offer vets, if nothing but honor. Because you see a lot of bad things happen to these guys. And so anything we can do, and it also helps our businesses too. And a lot of businesses have been very kind in their responses.
They have. Another thing we're doing also, if new businesses come in, we have several businesses, probably if I had to guess, 5, believe it or not, 5 to 10 maybe, might be stretching it a little bit, but usually we have at least 5 businesses, new businesses a week register with us. So what we're doing is we're capturing also the new assumed names and the businesses, and we're sending them the information as well. So every day we're trying to involve new people and trying to initiate new things. Now a lot of these people that are registering for these businesses are doing home businesses off of the website. So it's kind of hard for them to offer any incentives unless they had a shop or a store or something. So we just want you guys to know that we are working hard for the county, and we love our jobs, we love what we do, and can't wait to continue. And we would love to have you guys come and see what we're doing over there on the 11th. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope to shake a lot of hands and thank a lot of veterans for their service, because we can't forget that freedom is not free, and that's why we're here. And another thing I'd like to say is kudos to Doug Googe. Doug Googe and I are working together. We're hoping that if a veteran doesn't have a military discharge, that he and I can kind of bridge the gap on some way of shortening that length of time if they need it, because sometimes it takes the government months to reproduce those through the VA. And he and I are trying to correspond and help each other. Sometimes he has things I don't have, and we have things he doesn't have. So we're trying to bridge the gap between he and I and work together and get these military discharges for these veterans sooner, because they do need them for lots of things.
What was the date and time on that again?
November the 11th from 10 till 1.
Tonya, how many counties are currently doing this right now?
If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to overspeak because I know there's a lot working. I think we're going to be 12 or 13. Right. And I'll tell you something very exciting. We're going to conference next week. Jeff Thigpen out of Guilford County came up with a brilliant idea. He said, why don't we do this statewide? He said, if you think about it, if we have a portal, if a veteran is on vacation and he travels from county to county, and we have a portal, say he's going to Mecklenburg County, he could go on Mecklenburg County's website and see what places or campgrounds or wherever the spots that are offering the discounts, show him his card, and if it's a universal card from all the counties, then they'll be able to use them there too. So we're trying to do a state portal, and that I told them, they asked how many would participate, and my hand was the first one to go up. If someone's traveling through McDowell County, I want them to have every opportunity, whether they're a veteran in our county or not, they're a veteran in our United States. That's just how I feel about it. So it's going to be a really good adventure, and I'm looking forward for people to get involved, and I hear a lot of good comments about it, so I hope it goes over well.
Okay. Mr. Wood, anything to add?
We looked at it and talked to Ms. Hampton about it a while back, and it seems like a good incentive program to encourage veterans to go do the recording there.
Absolutely.
And that's the point. I mean, the discounts are a good secondary benefit, but really getting those documents recorded is so important, and this is just a reward for their service definitely, but also getting that recording done.
Absolutely.
Contact the office down at Patty's Creek, North Carolina State Park.
Uh-huh.
They already offer the military discount, but it would be good for them to know what you're doing.
Oh, I'd love to do that.
All of
Okay.
your national parks recognize the military.
Oh, great. Can I ask what incentive they may offer? Is it like,
It's 26 a night, but if you're a vet, you can get it for 20.
oh, great. Okay. That's, thank you.
That may be,
Wouldn't,
Is that Burke?
I think it's Burke.
But it's also at the McDowell County site too.
Oh.
Is it? Okay, sweet.
Yeah, any ideas we welcome. We welcome anything.
You know, I know I've still got my military ID card,
Sure.
and, of course, would not most of these big places just accept their original military ID card?
Go ahead.
Only if your DD 214 is registered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Down here.
Yeah.
So this is just gonna be totally through.
Thoroughly through the Registered Deeds Office, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's what we're telling the business, you know, I know there's a lot of veterans that have their cards, but ours specifically will say, and I don't have my glasses on, but, well, it's on top of my head, I guess. It says, this is to certify that this veteran has presented a certificate of U.S. military discharge or a U.S. military active reserve or a retired identification at the Register of Deeds Office.
DD 214, right?
It could be a DD 214 or a retired military, or if they're currently in the reserves, we can use, you know, because a lot of times due to the long-term reserves, we could use their paperwork from that. But,
Or just discharge papers.
absolutely. And, you know, we can work off of a copy too, because, you know, if a Korean veteran comes in, if he's like us normal people, he's probably misplaced it over the years. But if he has a copy of that and he has a current identification and everything matches, we'll also record that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, that's a good
Yeah,
program.
You're welcome. We're really excited. Like I said, we hope each of you can participate. We'd love to have you there. Thanks for your time.
And the press is here, so I'm sure that'd be a really great story to put in the paper right there.
Well, and I hope that we can do some advertising as well. So like I said, I want to include everybody and not leave anybody out, so. But, and if you have any shred stuff, bring it on.
All right, Holly, nice to meet you too. Good to have you here tonight. Okay, this time let's go ahead and we have a 5:30 appointment, and let's go ahead and we have Jason with us tonight. Jason, come on up, sir. This is the Backcountry Trail Program. So Jason, the floor is yours. Good to have you tonight.
All right, thanks. I appreciate you all giving me the chance to speak tonight. What we are proposing is providing the Forest Service with some assistance with their Backcountry Trails program in the county. As y'all know, the county is about 25%, I think, public lands, U.S. Forest Service specific, and the Forest Service is pretty dramatically under-resourced to manage those trails. The outdoor rec economy, of which I'm the director at Camp Grier, so that's a big part of what we do at camp. It's a huge industry in North Carolina and across the country. So about $28 billion in consumer spending just in North Carolina, and that generates about $1.3 billion in state and local tax revenue each year. So it's a big chunk of our economy that we're talking about, and the public lands that are in McDowell County and that are connected to our small towns can benefit from that dramatically, much more so than we currently are. So what we're proposing is a public-private partnership between us and the Forest Service and hopefully the town of Old Fort and the county as well to provide some maintenance for the trails that exist, and then being able to leverage those maintenance resources with outside private grant funds to build more trail within the county. So we're the opportunity that we have right now is pretty unique because of the state trails that are coming into the region. So the Fauna Flora Trail that's stretching from Morganton to Asheville, as well as the Gateway Mountain and Over Mountain Victory Trails, provide a huge opportunity to connect not only the Forest Service resources, but also those state trail programs to the rural towns like Old Fort and other towns across the region. So, you know, we are looking for financial support from the county to help us get the base provided, you know, so that we can take care of the trails that we have now, and using that base of support to go out and leverage private dollars for expanding the trails, specifically in McDowell County.
There are a lot of trails that already exist, and what you guys are wanting to do is just kind of help maintain the trails. And
Yeah, so what we're
I know
looking,
from Camp Grier, there's trails all the way to the parkway that way that I have walked in
there are.
direction.
Yeah, there's about 300 miles of trail in the grandfather district and about 65 to 70 in McDowell County. And the Forest Service doesn't have the capacity or the bandwidth to maintain what we have. And so we can leverage our network of trail user groups. So people like mountain bikers, trail runners, fly fishermen, hunters, anglers. We can leverage those networks to actually take care of the maintenance piece, but we need assistance in coordinating that. So there needs to be somebody that can connect with those user groups and actually show up on the volunteer work days and build that kind of volunteer grassroots network. So we do have a lot of trails, not all of those are inventoried, and there's a lot of ways that we can make trail connections that can improve the accessibility for people who don't want to go out and have huge days on the bike. You can make it so that it impacts a larger user group to attract more visitors to the county.
Jason, have you got linked up with the McDowell Trails group?
Yes, sir. I was hoping that Steve Pierce could be here tonight, but I haven't seen him yet. But yeah, what we're talking to the McDowell Trails about is their kind of specialty is more of the front country piece, so more of the greenways, so where that fauna flora trail would come in, to towns more. Our specialty is more the kind of the backcountry, if you will, piece. So the trails that are a little bit further out, a little bit harder to get to, a little bit harder to coordinate maintenance on. So we're specifically talking about those type of trails, and that's really where we need most of the assistance. It's a great question.
And our memo stated that you were just seeking county endorsement, but now I heard you say county money.
So Camp Grier is going to invest about $15,000 in this because a lot of the trails that we're developing on the Forest Service land do tie in, to our property in some way. They also tie into the town of Old Fort, and then the Forest Service has agreed to include a piece in their budget for this effort as well. So if we can, financial assistance from the county is, would be really important.
Has the Forest Service stated the dollar amount to you yet, or a possible dollar amount?
Verbally, yeah. Now, Lisa, I think, is coming up for me, so I'll let her speak to the specifics on that. But yeah, so I think just the base support that we need annually just to maintain the trails in McDowell County is about $75,000, and that includes leveraging all the volunteer networks and transportation, tools, equipment, all that kind of thing.
Has Old Fort locked down on any figure?
Not yet. I'm on their agenda for October, so I hope
They're meeting, I think, right now.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
The memo, and I haven't had a chance to talk to Carol or Ms. Sullivan, but may I ask what the financial contribution from TDA is looking like?
We haven't named a dollar amount yet. We've been providing in-kind support, but our board is, which is why I'm here to say, is incredibly supportive of this because, of course, our job is to get tourists from outside to inside the county. And we know once we get them here, if we give them a good experience, which cleaning up the trails and having that kind of activity will do, they will come back and they will spend money. So we know there's about $2 million that we can see, coming into the county for tourism. Most of it comes in from the kind of thing that we're talking about, the outdoors, the outdoor kinds of activities. And we know a lot of those folks are families. So when you're talking about, they want a clean experience and they want a safe experience. And everything that Jason's talking about speaks to that kind of family sort of atmosphere and family experience, which is why the TDA board is 100% behind it, and we will be prepared to put skin in the game in terms of dollars, at the appropriate time, because we believe that strongly. And let me add one more thing, and that is, if anybody can pull this off, it's Jason and his team. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, not only is he on the Tourism Development Authority board, but we've watched Camp Grier change and grow. And we know he knows how to make a success. And we know he knows how to build partnerships. And we know that this has the opportunity to go 5 county-wide, be part of the quote G5, which is our region with the National Park Service. It gives McDowell County a chance to spearhead that, which puts us in the driver's seat, and isn't that nice? And Jason, if anybody can pull it off, I believe Jason can. So we'd like to see you help us give him and his team all the support that they need to make us better.
And camp is a good example. I mean, just in the past 6 years, we've kind of broadened our infrastructure and offerings on our campus, and we've seen our budget roughly triple in those 6 years just by appealing to a broader outdoor recreation demographic. So I think the same can be true for the county. I mean, the assets here, it's just a matter of maintaining and developing it in a way that makes sense.
Ms. Sullivan, do you have any idea what dollar amount, skin in the game, that your board might be considering right now? Is there a range?
Well, I think it's going to depend upon what Jason needs.
Okay.
I mean, we're talking about, possibly hiring staff. We certainly are already and will continue to provide advertising. We provide in-kind support. And we'll look at everything that he wants to give, everything that he says that he needs, because we know when he gives us a request, it's real. Unlike some people who come to us with a lot of smoke and mirrors, to be candid. So, yeah, we'll look at it.
And can I add one thing to it? When you ask about the Trails Association, we have reached out to the Trails Association to provide financial support to some of those front country trails. Catawba Falls is an area that the Forest Service is always fighting. It's over there, cleanliness over there, that's an issue. But I think the other thing that I see at the visitor center in terms of what people ask us for, yes, we do have a lot of trails here, but we have more that we don't publicize because of the condition and the accessibility issue. And being able to create the loops Jason's referring to, making those accessible, we could rework our mapping process. That's another thing that we could provide as far as information to the public. But outdoor recreation needs just continue to grow and grow and grow. The Parkway's always been the main reason people come here. That's changing. Something that Jason's organization introduced underneath their nonprofit umbrella is Tonawa Adventures, and they host trail running events now throughout the year. They do a Hellbender 100 every year. Who wants to go run 100 miles in the forest? A lot of people. They fly in and they stay here, they visit here, and then they come back. So he's very much thinking outside the box with this partnership that does include the Forest Service. We did assist with the logo development for the Grandfather Ranger District, calling it, you see on your paperwork, probably the G5 Trail Collective. So I think, is to echo Helen, he's thinking outside the box. This is leading, I think, in a different direction and filling a need with our trails and our outdoor recreation opportunities.
Does it look like some of your time with the O-Ram, the off-road assault on Mount Mitchell, the bike race?
It is. So we host the Enduro, which is a downhill mountain bike race on Katsuma and Heartbreak Ridge. The O-Ram is another race production company, but our trail running race production company gives about 10% back from those races to the trails that the races take place on. So, from our standpoint, as a Christian kind of organization, being good stewards and giving that back to the trails is important. I don't know if ORAM has that tradition or not, but it's definitely, that's the demographic that we're looking at. Like if you look at their race registration information, a huge part of that is coming from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina.
You might have already mentioned this, and forgive me for asking again if you have, but what is the state putting into this, and under what bill or grant or anything? Is the state doing anything?
Not with this collective in particular. They are putting funds behind Fauna Flora Gateway Mountain.
I know that.
Mountain, but to this,
nothing on this.
Nothing to this yet.
And you've got a verbal somewhat on the federal, probably not a lot, honestly.
Yeah, and I can speak to that when Jason's done too.
Yeah, I mean, between Camp Grier and the Forest Service, we've got almost half the funds that we need committed.
Half of the 75,000.
I work those bicycle races every year,
Yes, sir.
and there's anywhere from 350 to 400 bicyclists in those races, and they come from all over the United States to Old Fort, North Carolina,
Yes, sir.
just for the thrill of the trail.
Yeah, that's correct.
And this, I'm sorry.
Who comprises the G5? I mean, I know it's your grandfather did, but what counties are in that?
So it's a good question. So there's 5 counties that make up the grandfather district. It's McDowell, Avery, Caldwell, Burke, and a little bit of Watauga. We're starting this initiative in McDowell, so we haven't gone to other counties yet. The reason for that primarily is a lot of the work has been done. So we already have, rough trails drawn for fauna flora. There's property that's already been bought for that trail to come through near camp. Our organization is here, and we already have a user agreement with the Forest Service, so we're starting in Old Fort and McDowell County intentionally.
Personally, I'd like to see our county be a part of it.
Yeah, especially since you said we'd be in the driver's seat, and there's a lot of movement now with in Old Fort concerning the brandability of the town, and we're going to be hearing more about that in future days. So I think Commissioner Brown is tagging in on something, and hearing Commissioner Green talk about the amount of people who come in for those races is pretty staggering. And Commissioner Vaughn sat in on a trails meeting the other day, and it's amazing, isn't it, all that's going on, Brittany?
It is.
Mr. Wooten, let me ask you this, because Commissioner Brown has indicated support financially already for this project. I know we're here to receive information tonight, but we've got some time where we could talk and maybe talk with some of our partners and see what they could do to also match up maybe with some money that we could do, or that might be recommended from staff for this project. Does that sound like
I think if I feel, like you're saying, a desire to move forward a little bit. We can talk to Jason and get a little more concrete on an ask, and talking to Lisa and Carol and others to formulate and bring that back maybe next month if that's appropriate.
Because the TDA, that's, you just heard right there, ladies, of the people coming in from out of state, and y'all do great on the printing and the flyers and all that, but that's y'all's bag, that's y'all's game right there.
That's what we do.
And so we would look to see you guys partner financially above what you're doing now, so we can help. It would be a great encouragement to our board to be able to even jump in there with you when you make that commitment.
I mean, I can't commit the whole board.
Oh, sure.
As the
We're not
president
asking
of
for
the board,
that.
I
No.
can't commit them, but I can tell you that we are very enthusiastic about this program, and I don't expect that there would be a negative response when it comes to actually putting dollars against it, because we see a great return on the investment.
And if you're a representative of your board,
Well,
I
I'm
think that board's
president.
100% behind it then.
Yes.
Because you're out there leading the charge, it sounds like.
Doing my best.
So I like it.
I appreciate the time.
Comments, questions by other commissioners? Okay, Jason, thanks so much, and our staff will be in touch, and the board at a future date, we'll look at what we can do as far as the financial contribution with other partners.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. Nice to meet you. Okay, this time let's move to our 5:45 appointment, and this segues right into some of the things we just heard. And we have Lisa Jennings with us tonight with the U.S. Forest Service. She's here to give us updates, correct?
Yes.
So the floor is yours, ma'am. Good to have you.
All right, thank you. So I wanted to start off just following up on some of the stuff Jason said, and kind of our vote of confidence in his model as something that can support us. So you guys know, being in a county that has a lot of Forest Service land, 66,500 acres to be exact, of county land, our budgets have only gone down, and our staffing has gone down since the days we were in the bottom of the library in Marion. We had a lot more people then than we do now, and it's that model across the country and across the region. But we're getting more use and more visitation and more folks who want to come to McDowell County and see the National Forest. And we're looking at this model Jason has as something that can really support it. To give you guys some context on those 5 counties, 300 miles of trails, and 200,000 acres of Forest Service land that comprises the Grandfather Ranger District. Our recreation program is staffed by only 2 permanent employees, myself and my lead technician. Now, we do hire some seasonal folks to get along, but it's a small staff, and that's not just the trails program, that's the campgrounds, that's Curtis Creek, that's Old Fork Picnic Area, that's Table Rock. That's everything we have on the National Forest that people come to these counties to see.
And we've got, the Pisgah's the most visited of all your national parks in America.
Yep, second most visited country, only because people visit those out west to go skiing, so they have to count those ski visitors. But the people who come and stay, they're coming to the Pisgah. And so we're looking at this model as something that can give that force so that we can focus on an area. And so this staffing proposal that he has to bring in a trails specialist to McDowell County would give that momentum to the trails program in McDowell County that we haven't had in a long time. We've brought some users together, done some pre-planning, as he alluded to, folks from local businesses, folks even from the Black Mountain side in Buncombe County who use these trails, getting everybody committed and looking at how could we make this better. Identified about 10 miles of new trails that would make over 10 new loops for a variety of users. So we're not just talking about the mountain bikes, we're talking about horseback riders coming to McDowell County, we're talking about hiking communities. Right now, if you want a mountain bike in McDowell County, you have to ride at least 16 miles to get a good loop, that's the Woods Mountain Loop. Or if you want to do Heartbreak and the toll road, that's about 30 miles. Now, a certain type of folk can do a 16-mile loop. I'm not that type of folk. I like a 5-mile loop, something a little nicer. So we're looking at making those connections for all the users so that we can accommodate all of the folks who are visiting this county and bring in more people. So the Forest Service, as Jason said, is looking to invest in McDowell County as the kickoff project for this Trails Collective. We've got the energy here, we have the resources, Jason is here locally, and with our limited budget, we want to invest a lot to this kickoff year to make sure that this is a success, because we really believe in this program. I'm seeing what's happening in Transylvania County on the Pisgah, and a lot of those people are moving over and coming over to McDowell County as that other option close to Asheville. And we're seeing that, and we want to get ahead of it and provide them good opportunities when they get here. So that includes not only trails, but access. So thinking about where are these people going to park, how are we going to manage their trash, how are we going to manage restrooms, and all those types of things. So really looking at comprehensive trail system planning. And thinking about how does that connect to our communities too. So we're moving out of those Forest Service days of just working on our land, and we're moving into this, we call it shared stewardship now is the new buzzword, but how do we work with our communities, and how are communities the gateways to the National Forest? So looking at Old Fort as a great model, because our National Forest land comes the closest to Old Fort of any of our communities on the entire Grandfather District, not just in McDowell County. You can get really close to Old Fort in the lands up behind on Jarrett Creek Road in that area. And then McDowell County, looking at that 221 corridor further on with Woods Mountain, some of that stuff in the Mountain Sea corridor going across towards Linville Gorge. So we're really excited, and I just, offer Jason my full support because he is a go-getter. He has a great model. Everybody across Western North Carolina, I tell about what he's doing. They say, that's what we need. That's going to work. So
Now, a lot of these trails go into Buncombe County as well. Why is Buncombe County one of our wealthy neighbors? Are they not interested in being part of this?
Well, so actually, they skirt Buncombe County, but the Forest Service lands, we don't own anything on the Grandfather District in Buncombe County. We stop at the Katsuma Trailhead, which is the border of McDowell. So I would think that would be something that at least Black Mountain would want to invest in.
Absolutely.
But, that's probably on Jason's to-do list because, they're sending a lot of people here. This is their backyard too. So making sure that everybody's in the same boat. Yeah. So any questions about that before I move on to some other updates? Okay. Great, so a few things, and Ashley asked that I talk about Catawba Falls, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the forest plan revision, but the rec stuff is what I like. I'm the recreation program manager. I don't know if I said that first. So Catawba Falls, we've done a lot out there, but we have a lot more planned. So if y'all had been out there this year, you noticed we did a parking lot expansion. We added about 25 new parking spots, and we're working on getting in some wheel stops in there to delineate the parking, trying to deal with some of those issues we had with that parking lot being full. But we added 25 spots. You go out there on Saturday, you wouldn't have thought we added anything else because it's full. So we realize that people are coming, and we want them to have a good experience. The next thing we're working on is this phased build to the Upper Falls. So we've secured, through partnerships with the county, we've secured $200,000 of RTP funds that are already secured. The county has $100,000, we have $100,000. I'm waiting on word of another $100,000 in RTP funds, so that's the State Recreation Trails Program funding. And then we're soliciting a commitment from National Forest in North Carolina of $200,000 more of off-the-top funds that would complete our $500,000 project to get people from the end of the second bridge to the base of the trail at the base of the Upper Falls. So this has been our vision since we acquired the land back in 2005. And we're almost there. So we're waiting for those last chips to fall and should have some more solid timelines as soon as this fall. We're already starting our engineering specifications to get that package together. We've had some changes in our strategy. We got some funding we've been holding since fall of 2017 from the county because the concern was if we start building from the bottom in phases, then the guy with the materials can't get up to where they need to for the next phase. So we're trying to just get it all and get it done to get folks safely to the bottom of the Upper Falls. So that will be coming soon, and hopefully I'll have more update on that. In late September, we should hear word on the rest of the funding. So that'll be big. So then the forest plan revision is the other thing. So if y'all, I'm sure y'all are aware that the Forest Service is working on the forest plan revision for the Pisgah and Nantahala National Forests. We've been working on this in some form or another since 2013. I think they started with the initial assessment phases, so it's been a long time coming. But they'll be releasing the final draft materials for review in October, and following that up with a series of public meetings. So my boss, the district ranger, Nick Larson, he is out on a detail in Alaska right now. He will be back at the end of October, and probably about that time he'll be ready, and that plan will be ready to reach out to y'all about what's going on in it and what we will do around scheduling those public meetings, because we obviously want county involvement in those, and we'll likely be hosting one at the McDowell Tech campus again in McDowell County. The final thing is we're working on some wildfire protection planning in the area between Lake James and Bald Knob, so off Hankins Road. That'll involve knocking on some doors, talking to folks about wildfire protection, and potentially developing some prescribed burn units that'll focus on keeping wildfires in that area that seems to burn every few years, up from North Cove down to the lake, making sure that can't get to those houses in that area. It's been identified as a high-risk area.
Okay.
All right.
There's a lot going on, right?
There's a lot.
At least in McDowell County, this board has made it a priority over the last 4 or 5 years to get these trails and get them connected and connectivity, and the boards. I think the board's done a wonderful job in really trying to understand the BSD rates and get those down and get people outside, get them walking, enjoying nature, and partnerships. You hit it is the key thing in this whole puzzle. So we're glad you're here, and we'll put a good word into Nick Larson on your behalf.
Great.
Is there a time frame on your Firewise community type event? Because I do emergency management class at high school. That's one of the things we want to try to tie into. We did with the North Carolina around Lake Tahoma a couple of years ago where we involve our students in hands-on activity. Do you have a contact where we could get in touch with you?
Yeah, I can give you a card, and our fire management officer, Greg Phillip, who is actually acting district ranger now, he's organizing that. It sounded like that would probably take place over the winter, this winter.
Over the winter.
So.
Ashley, anything to add?
You said Greg's name. Greg is on the agenda to be here tonight in Nick's place, who's in Alaska. And Greg was called down east for the hurricane program. But regardless of the staff, we have a great relationship with the county. Emergency services meet with Lisa and Nick and Greg all the time. Greg, I know, has been at the EOC before when we've had emergencies. That's why he's down east again. So great federal, local relationship here, and we know it will continue in this staff.
Yeah, we love working with the folks in McDowell County.
Great. Well, we got great folks in McDowell County. We'll say that anywhere and everywhere. We brag on McDowell County. We highly refer people to come to McDowell County. So come see us. We're open for business, and we got lots of trails. All right. Thanks for being here tonight.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Let's move to item A under old business. This is the planning department updates. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Right. I guess Ron can come forward and maybe talk about some action from the planning board. So last month, just a brief recap, we had a public hearing on the subdivision ordinance. There were some questions about the family subdivision regulations, and so the planning board was asked to sort of look at the topic, and they've got a recommendation back for this board. That makes sense. So for a little of a tennis match.
Okay, so the planning board looked into the family exemption, and the state, we're bound by the state definition of subdivision since we adopted subdivision rules. The state definition of a subdivision does not include a family exemption. Therefore, the county would have to ask for special legislation to be able to exempt family subdivisions. And from the research that we've conducted, it's fairly common. So what the board would need is direction on what you would like to see in a family exemption, so we could draft something and then get it in front of the appropriate folks to see if we could get it passed.
There's an example from Macon County in your packet.
Right.
And there, we probably lost count, but there's quite a few counties when we Googled, or Google research, that have done this. And so it's not that uncommon. Again, the Macon reference is in here. And more or less, it's some restriction as far as who counts as a family, but a lot of the regulation is not implemented for a family. So there's just a little bit that's there as far as road width. That is a fire code thing we can't do anything with. There's like our watershed ordinance we can't get away from, but more or less it does. I think what this board would like to do, and the planning board, is to keep the regulation as minimal for legitimate transfers of property to family.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion we let the county manager put something together for us to look at, and then we'll vote on it at that point.
Yeah, because, in Ron's memo, his last sentence says, the planning board voted to recommend the board of commissioners consider the local legislation set forth. So I guess that needs to go back to you guys with commissioner input. Pick the phone up, call Ashley or Ron, and let them know what you as individual commissioners want to see in it, and then let them, because I think that's important. The planning board wants to know feedback from us too, right?
I think Ashley already knows kind of the direction we were wanting to go in on that, and I think he could put something together and just present it back to us, and we could go from there.
What we hear is as minimal as possible, where if any one of the people in this county that wanted to subdivide their property to gift to heirs or whatever is defined by family in the statutes, to keep it as minimal as possible. Keep it in mind, there are some things that we can't abrogate as far as fire code and so forth. We do want to make sure, and that would be in the recommendation, that there are restrictions to where someone couldn't try to hoodwink the county to get around it. And so We know most people are honest and will be doing this for honest purposes, but we want to make sure there's no loopholes that someone could transfer to his son and then he sell it to somebody in Florida or whatever.
Yes.
I think in my mind, the whole idea is that if a mother and father want to divide their property up among their children, that's different from a contractor or a business person out here going out and just buying land to make a subdivision. And those people are the ones that we want to protect, is that mother and father.
That's right.
And those children, when they grow up, get married,
That's
and they're
correct.
still there, they want to pass it to their children.
That's right.
Well, I mean, if you want to handle that yourself, just whomever, get us something back to look at.
Vice Chairman Brown's point, we would want to make sure we talk to Fred Coates and the School of Government website or whatever, their person, but bring back something that would stand legal challenges.
Okay, we look forward to hearing back on that. All right, Ron, anything else you got?
I had a motion on that to do that.
Okay. All right, got a motion and a second. Second, discussion. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. All right, Ron. Good to see you, sir. Let's move to item B under old business, water system updates. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. So we've not had water on the agenda in a few months, and we hope it stays on the agenda moving forward for a long time. We finished the Stacy Hill project maybe about 4 months ago. And the chairman and I were speaking on the phone a couple of days ago about what's next. And so we are meeting next week with, or actually this week, sorry, with our engineer on the Lake James water intake project. For those that have been paying attention for a while, we started this process, seems like forever ago, to where we had the watershed reclassified. We've been doing some studies with our engineer, and we just sort of put on the back burner because of Stacy Hill Road and EPA funding deadlines, et cetera. So we're bringing it back to the front burner. We're meeting with the engineer. There's some money in this year's budget to get that process back going again, thankfully. So we'll work with Duke Energy on the permit application they have to do. And so that's good news. We're getting that back going again. Also, we have been communicating with an engineer. We've asked for a date for them to come and meet with us on water lines. So this is, the meeting this week is for an intake that we've talked about before. We're trying to get a date set in the next few weeks on water lines. We have some ideas where we'd recommend to go, and especially the Nemo area, but we're essentially looking for them to come in where they would help with grants, design, all different, the whole package, I guess. And so we have authorization to be talking to folks from y'all, but not to apply for anything yet. But hopefully in the next few months, we'll have some recommended areas that make sense as far as density, loops, and things like that. So I did have a call, I mentioned the chairman from an area. We've made note of that in the Nebo area and communicated that to Terry. So if folks see this and they live in Nebo, especially near a water line, and if they don't even live near a water line, we'll take a call and at least make note of it. But it does help to know where there is interest and problems, and it's where a lot of times we can focus with grants.
Ashley, what do you think a realistic timeline is to have all the permitting approved?
On the intake part? Our understanding...
Get us to where that this board or any future board could go in as you grow your customers up, get your density, your number of water customers up, to where the point, if it ever was needed down the road, to actually build the water filtration plant.
Ron and I work on this a long time too. Our understanding from talking to the engineer a year and a half ago, before we had to pause it, once we start the application with Duke, they have to run it through their processes and then to FERC, which is federal. It would take about a year, is what we understood.
Okay.
So starting it, there's studies and all kinds of things, of course, but we think within a year And that's what it was a year and a half ago. There's different, players have changed and all that, but hopefully it would stay about the same, where we would have it in hand and ready to go whenever y'all were ready and funding was available and so forth.
Okay, that's good. That's a
Not 10
manageable
years. I mean,
timeline.
again, that's to have one thing done, but it's a start.
Okay, all right, great. Any other comments or questions for staff? There being none, let's move to our new business, the personnel, item A, personnel policy revision. Mr. Wooten, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. This is something we've had before you, actually, back in 2017. And we understood from the school government we need to make a slight adjustment on this. So this is part of our personnel policy on page 27 under overtime. FEMA, if we have a federally declared emergency, like we had with Florence and Michael last year, FEMA will pay our overtime costs. And typically, we pay overtime cash payments to non-exempt employees. Exempt employees get comp time. And so, but in a federal declaration, FEMA will pay that overtime, cash overtime, to eligible employees, exempt employees, if they worked overtime. So it's essentially an overtime benefit that we're able to tap into in certain circumstances. Now, having said that, so they recap, FEMA will pay cash overtime payments to exempt employees, which is unusual, contradicts our employee policy otherwise, and non-exempt. But they will not let you have language that says we will pay overtime if FEMA will pay it. So that's very confusing.
So it's part of their policy to do it, but we can't have it in our policy, right?
Where it's contingent on them paying it.
Mm-hmm.
But we can have, okay, keep it going. We can have a contingency, what you see in green on here, that we will pay cash overtime to exempt employees if a local state of emergency is declared within McDowell County by the Board of Commissioners, which typically it's the chairman that signs that. We will only do that 99% of the time if it is a disaster we know will have a federal declaration. And so we are allowed to have that qualifier in there, but not anything that says a federal declaration. So this is what we're requesting moving forward, that the language be tweaked just a little bit to where this falls under FEMA's.
Basically allows them to pay them.
Right.
Just tell me, and it's probably a very simple thing, but just for clarification, an exempt employee and a non-exempt employee.
So an exempt employee would be a department head typically of a larger department. There's a requirement they have to supervise at least 3 people typically. So this is more or less like your emergency services department heads. It can apply to other department heads that are responding, like well, I don't know if Ron's exempt, but someone that has been called in to assist the EOC can be compensated this way as well.
Yeah, those are not department, and then even though they're not a department head of a large department of 3 or more. So the non-exempt would be just anybody who's not.
Not exempt would get paid overtime anyway, so this is.
They get it anyway.
For exempt employees.
Okay.
While we're talking about FEMA, there's something that I'd like for us to take a look at sometime.
Sure.
And I did make mention of this when we were up in Washington, when I talked to the director.
That's outside.
Hallway, wasn't it?
Yeah. But anyway, I did talk to them about. We have, down east, we have a lot of flooding down there, when the big storms come in and the water rises, and there's a lot of money and effort put into taking care of those areas. Here in the mountain areas where we have the rivers and streams that washes out all the private bridges and culverts, there's no money for these people here. Now, And I did question them about that, and they gave no indication that there would ever be any money, federal money for them. But I'd like to see at some point in time, our county be in position to put some money back to help these people out in our area when that does happen.
We have on, like, pedestrian bridges, but never on vehicle bridges before. But that is something that we, as staff, when we meet with FEMA representatives, which is a different level, I understand what you're saying, but we ask, and they're frustrated too that a lot of the funding they have can be used for public infrastructure.
Exactly.
And they've
for
tried
private.
to talk to people they work with and for that you're in the state right of way a lot of times. This is more or less public infrastructure because they're accessing the state right of way and it doesn't get far.
Because the bridge is gonna be right there at the end of where the main road is.
The thing is
Coming off
about
of
it, and I talk to so many people, because I know so many people on the upper waters up here, Catawba and Mill Creek and those areas. These people don't have the money to spend $20,000, $30,000 on a bridge when these unexpected storms come in and wash them out, and there's places where there may be 4 or 5 houses across the river in one spot, but these people, a lot of them, they don't have that kind of money to do that, and if the federal government's not going to help them out, then I just wish that at some point in time, as a county, we could in some way have some money set aside in some kind of plan in order to help these people a little bit. If it's just give them a couple $1,000s, that's a help. Yeah, but it's just it's something that really eats at me that there's no help for these people.
The flood program, Ashley, what benefit? I know that if we are in the flood, what's the official name?
Floodplain.
The program, federal, it enables them to just get, in a flood, it allows them to, if they would have had homeowners insurance or flood insurance. That's our participation. Is that what the program does?
Right. So FEMA has the flood mapping program. We have flood maps that are approved by the county, and we have the floodplain ordinance. If you didn't have that, folks here could not get flood insurance, which mostly covers
the structure.
Not always will it do bridges and so forth. We've seen that maybe more back in 2004 where that was an issue. One of the issues we had with Florence and Michael, we qualified as a PA, if you remember William talking about that acronym, public assistance. We had enough damage in the town and city and the state did to qualify for public assistance. So we were able to get help on our overtime and different things. There was not enough homes damaged to qualify for individual assistance to where the FEMA funds could be used to help repair homes. We had all kinds of bridges damaged, probably over the whole year. I think I lost count, but I think 50 to 60 bridges damaged to some degree. That's a bad loophole from staff's opinion, where people have $20,000 or $30,000 worth of expense that should count towards something. And I'm getting a little bit of a soapbox. Another area where we have no assistance out of these storms last year is on the stream debris. Ronald and I remember back in 2004, him especially, we had funding to assist with cleaning out the streams. It was a massive amount of money. We did not have that last year. And we have a lot of streams that are filled with debris now that will cause issues down the road. And
here's where we need to get with, we need to lobby and the commissioners in Meta's district. I mean, there needs to be some kind of concerted lobbying effort to get those numbers, like the number you mentioned, that you have a certain number to even qualify. We need to be lobbying our representatives in the House and on the Senate side to say, guys, look, Meta's, you're from the mountains. You know what happens here. Let's lower that number. Get some kind of get something done as far as that goes. I mean, I think that's something too we need to be working on also. Is meeting with these guys, say, look, our people's being affected greatly. And, you know, you took away a pot of money, it's gone. And then you say you gotta have X number of houses before you step in here and you'll do something. And we need to lobby them to lower that number of houses or structures or whatever, parcels, because that's, these guys are saying that they're right, it's not fair. And we, as elected officials, we gotta do our job of lobbying these other elected officials. I mean, we need to hit them and hit them hard with it. And say, give us some help, give our people some relief in this county. Because that's who we advocate for. I don't advocate for a man that represents 13 other counties and them other. I advocate for people that we represent here in McDowell County. Tony does, Brenda, Lynn, Barry. And listen, we get sort of fed up with our people in McDowell County getting the short end of the stick. Maybe it's time we really hit them guys hard and start schedule some meetings with them and saying, look, here's where we're being negatively impacted, and what can you do to help us? And let's sit down and have a conversation about this.
I got pretty strong with them in Washington when I was talking to them about it. I did.
But we need to hit the lawmakers, because those people are just the paid staff up there that are over departments. We need to get the guys that actually do the voting and girls that do the voting up there and sit down with them. I think that's a good point. It's high time we stop sitting back and take a second fiddle and get some stuff done.
We have all the data from this last year, from 18, that we can pull together. We might not have the estimates on what it would have taken to repair it, but we have a general idea for it. But we've got all that data still that we could use that to advocate for something.
Let's follow up on this.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, this is the first reading, so there's no action to be taken tonight, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's move to item number B under new business. This is the involuntary commitment transportation agreement. Mr. Wood, go ahead, sir.
This may be something Commissioner Green has some experience with from his sheriff's office career, and I would imagine Commissioner Vaughn too. The General Assembly passed a law last year that requires local governments to have an involuntary commitment transport agreement. The involuntary commitment, again, is when a family member or someone has a concern about another individual. They will go to a magistrate and say, I feel like this person needs help. Typically, it's of a mental health sort, and so the magistrate will hear the information. They will decide on whether that person should be involuntary committed, and when they are then placed in the custody of law enforcement. In our case, with the sheriff's office will transport that person to typically McDowell Hospital. They would do an exam. At some point, it may take a while, but at some point, that person is usually, if they need to see someone of a higher caliber, or qualified on the mental health side especially, they're transported typically out of county to another facility. It could be anywhere in the state. 99 times out of 100 is the McDowell County Sheriff's Office personnel, deputy, transporting those individuals to wherever that facility is, and then transporting back when they're discharged or no longer involuntarily being held. So we've been doing that forever, and that's essentially the process. They go to the magistrate, whoever's there. Well, they're probably not at the magistrate, but they go from the home or wherever they are to the hospital, to the facility, and then they come back when they're ready to come home. Again, that's a practice for a very long time. The state is just requiring that it be on paper and filed with, I believe, the DHHS. And so this paper you see, started on page 29, this just puts in writing what we've been doing. It's very, very simple. It just tells the state what we're doing. We do have the city of Marion and the town of Old Fort on there. This is not contingent on them signing this. This is what they do as well. If it's going out of county, we do the transport. If it happens to be in the town or the city, they would do the transport to McDowell Hospital. That's the only reason they're on here. But if they choose to do something else, that's their prerogative, but we are required to do it. The sheriff has looked at this and signed off. We did meet with the hospital. We met with Via Health, who's our mental health entity for this region. We have talked to RAJ. They're aware of this, and I think supportive of it. Hopefully not speaking out of turn, but this is a template, honestly, from Catawba County, and we made it fit our county here. And so the players that are involved in this every day have signed off, and we're asking for you to sign off on it.
The process is not changing, it's just in writing.
That's right.
I move that we approve.
I'll second.
All right, discussion. So, and then you probably speak this too. So, in the city brings them to the county, and then the county takes them out from there, right?
Yes.
Okay,
City can't go out of the county. They don't do any of those transports out of county.
okay.
And chances are, if somebody's going to another facility besides McDowell Hospital, it's going to be out of county, probably
Counties away.
Way out of county. Most times Raleigh area.
There was some discussion about, lack of a better term, creative methods of transport there and back, and I think it will lead to further discussions down the road, but for right now, this is what we're doing. And that, it could be changed to something different down the road, but this is what's happening now.
Okay. All right, any other comments, questions? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay? Actually, let's move to item D, tax matters. Go ahead, sir, lead us out.
Yes, sir. You do have a memo from the tax collector there on page 47. She's asking for the 2008 taxes to be written off, which you can do that as part of the general approval, but I did want to point that out. You can no longer forcibly collect those.
So move.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's go to item E, the Valia Health update.
Yes, sir. What you have, page 154, is a resolution that was sent from Via Health. Again, this is the agency that oversees 23 county region for mental health, substance abuse, and developmentally disabled individuals. They, for right now, they contract with providers in those counties. For a number of years, there have been cuts from the General Assembly to what is called single stream funding. So these entities, LMEs, have been receiving funds directly from the state to provide services primarily to folks without insurance and who do not qualify for Medicaid. And that's been reduced for a number of years. This is a resolution that VIA has sent requesting that the funding be...
What's the pleasure of the board?
We approve the resolution.
Second.
Second, discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to the Census 2020 resolution. Mr. Wheaton, item F under new business.
Right, very brief. This is just an endorsement that the county will do our part to spread the word through social media, our government channel, Facebook, et cetera, to encourage folks to participate in the census, since a higher population helps us greatly.
They've already been to my house. I move to approve.
Okay, got a motion?
Second.
Discussion, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Going back for clarification, on the item, that would be item number D, tax matters, did your motion, Tony, include the resolution? Because Ashley said it would include all of that, or just do the resolution? Did you get all the releases, rebills?
I intended to do all of them.
Okay.
I meant...
Page 69.
That was the way that you brought it.
Right.
And that was the motion
I
that I made.
suggested it be all-encompassing. The write-offs and all of it.
Releases and refunds. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, keeping us in line. Okay, let's move to item G under new business. This is the added item, in God We Trust on all county vehicles. Commissioner Brown, go ahead, sir.
I was following today, I was coming in down here, and I happened to get behind one of the McDowell County Sheriff Department deputy cars, and, I was so proud to see that in God We Trust under the McDowell County Sheriff symbol. So, it's my intent to bring to the board the idea of putting In God We Trust along with the county seal on all county vehicles.
You making that a motion?
And I'm making that a motion.
A second.
Okay, got a motion, second, discussion. I'll say it's a great idea.
Yeah, too.
And it's on our coins, it's on our money, it's on our courthouse, it's on our admin building, it's on our sheriff's department cars, it's on our EMS vehicles. It's above our heads, and I think it'd be great to put it on every DSS car.
I think it should be on that seal.
And with the logo. That's a great thing. Any other comments by commissioners? All right, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Okay, let's move to citizen comment. This will be the next item on the agenda. If anybody is here who wishes to speak, just come on up and just sign your name. All right, does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, if not, at this time, we have staff reports, communications. Does staff have anything, or commissioners?
I don't, I'm good.
Yes, sir. Next Monday, we've mentioned this, but just to kind of get it out there again, September 16th, Monday at 1:30, we will have the ribbon cutting for the Greenway out on Old Greenlee Road, and that will be after the DSS meeting, so we tried to do it while you were already busy for most of you.
Captured.
And then just a reminder as well, we'll post this in appropriate places and so forth, but our October meeting on the 14th will be held at the Carson House. We have received the invite and accepted on your behalf.
It's 4 o'clock, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Second discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned.